The NBA hasn't cracked the code on getting people interested domestically. They haven't tried anything that has, I guess, tickled the bone of anybody in America to all of a sudden, if you're not a hockey fan, you just tune in. That doesn't happen with basketball.
Colin, here's the other part of this. They have created so many rules to prevent the Warriors, and I think that is so stupid because everyone either loved or hated the Warriors.
You're talking about with the luxury tax and constructing teams? You're talking about on the court?
The second apron stuff and the behind the scenes of the salary cap. They have created so many rules to make it impossible to have super teams. And what the NBA did was Adam Silver, to his credit and to his fault simultaneously, he is the single best partner with both players and the majority governors, the owners of the teams, that I've ever seen in any sport in commissioner history.
Yeah.
He wants to be in perfect with the players and the governors that he works with. And there was a loud outcry against the Warriors. But you know what? The fan bases of all these teams had a team to hate. People hated them. People rooted against them. They were rock stars. People hated the Heat with the big three. And now they've listened to the partners instead of the consumers. And those, in our world, the partners and the consumers in many ways are the same thing, right? Like in the advertising partners and the fans can be both. In the NBA's world, it's not exactly the same. And I think they've listened to too many of their business partners and players instead of the fans who need to cheer for someone or boo someone. And the NBA fan is in between right now. They're basically apathetic to all of it.
Evan, what would you, if David Stern were still around, you think he'd regret handing it over to Adam Silver?
No, Mike, I don't think he would regret handing it over to Adam Silver, but let's do it this way. If David Stern was still around and involved with the league, and we had David Stern on our ESPN West Palm show many times. He was I don't know why he did it. I mean, it was amazing. We used to have him on all the time.
One of my favorite commissioners, Evan. One of my favorite commissioners of all time.
He was amazing. But the town I grew up in was the town he lived in, and somehow John Martin would book him like probably 5 or 6 times. We would have him. It was unbelievable in the early days of ESPN West Palm. You guys have me on instead. Jeez. Anyway, so I think what Stern would do in this spot is almost say, Adam, you're going to still be the commissioner, but I'm now going to get back involved a little bit. You're too friendly with everybody. At some point, you got to say no. At some point, you can't say, let's lean into the science of the load management, which there is no science behind that. The science is play more, you get hurt less. And that, I think that David Stern would rule with a heavier hand than Silver obviously has.
Do you not think that in terms of the NBA losing interest domestically, you're talking about how the luxury tax and the apron has made it harder to create and maintain dynasty super teams. But on the flip side of things, don't you think the culture surrounding how the players have approached how they believe in the regular season and how they believe in actually trying and getting guys playing, don't you think the culture surrounding that has also been just as detrimental to the people interested in what's going on in the NBA?
No, because if I actually follow up with the question on that for average everyday fan, tell me who you're talking about that doesn't care about the regular season. I don't know who their answer would be. Who's the person that they're looking at? Like the average everyday person doesn't care enough about Kawhi. I'm not a LeBron guy personally. They would say LeBron. They would just be wrong about that because numbers would indicate otherwise. I think it's the overall mentality versus like there's one person that's involved in that. I don't know that that's as much of it. I think that's the perception of it. But, okay, so, Colin, who's the face of that in your mind? Who's the face of people not caring about the regular season, which I don't disagree with you, but I want to know who the face is of that.
At this point, it used to be players. LeBron was a big point of that. And you know what? Partially, culture-wise, you mentioned LeBron. LeBron going to the All-Star game in street clothes saying he has an ankle injury, not playing, being the center of every media pundit, being every center of every media thing, and then coming out against the Hornets the first game back, looks healthy as ever, and then loses 197. That, to me, is the culture thing that could trickle down into the fans caring and the whole thing, because it looks phony. It looks phony when players like that do that.
That's what I blame LeBron for. That is what I blame. So what LeBron has not done, in my opinion, at all, is set up the next generation to follow the proper lead.
He's obsessed with the attention. He's obsessed with the attention.
But let me be clear on this. When I say proper lead, I mean all about basketball. If you as a person want to be like LeBron James, a family man, a businessman, loyal to the core, to his people that he grew up with. I don't mean to the teams, but the people that he grew up with, go ahead. Like, that's a great person to emulate. From a basketball perspective, I could make the argument that LeBron James, over the last 20 years of the NBA, has done, I don't want to say more harm than good. I don't think it's completely 100% if we're going to rank all the good and all the harm he's done around the league. I don't think it's 100% more good than
he's
than
not
harm.
a great.
No.
I completely. You're 100% right here. He is not a great role model to the fellow player.
That's what it is. Not to the person. Not to little Mike Rizzo or little Colin Russo or little Christian Cat or little Evan Cohen. Not to go third person. Growing up, yeah, or be like that person. Absolutely, put in the work, the success, etc. But as dumb as it sounds, the dunk contest thing is a beautiful example.
Yeah. He ruined it. Evan, he ruined it.
Mike, he ruined it. It means nothing, but it was a way of life. It was Dr. J did it, so Michael did. Well, really, in Michael's case, David Thompson did it. But Dr. J did it, so Michael did it, so Kobe did it, so Vince Carter did it. And LeBron just didn't do. I'm going to do things my way. I get it. I get you want to do things your way. You're a businessman, not a businessman. Jay-Z line. I get it. But, the reality is, I don't understand what he has done to help the next generation from a basketball perspective carry the sport.
That's
He's
my
done
point.
everything for the next generation to make money individually, but not for the sport.
The culture with the players is not great because, in part, of him. And because of the lack of jumping around teams, I don't think is a great example to set. That's why people wanted to be like Mike, wanted to be like Kobe, wanted to be like Duncan. People like that, wanted to be like Magic. Guys who stuck around with one team were bigger than life. That is, players looked up to that. That's a little different. I don't think LeBron necessarily has that sort of resonation with a player.
As a LeBron guy, it's really hard to defend this stuff. I just go to just see the greatness. Like, if a player wants to emulate LeBron, it's keeping your body in pristine condition and being able to be a top 7 player in your 40s. That's my fight back on this.
But Mike, I don't think Colin or I would argue with that. But here's the counter to that. He now has now you have the legacy. Let me see Luka rip next year.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
you know what? Here's an example. Here's a current day example. You know why LeBron is never going to hand the key? You saw it last night if you watched that Laker Hornet game. LeBron is never going to hand those keys over to Luka Doncic and have him play off ball because LeBron cannot deal with the fact that somebody else will be the A1 of the team. And it's similar to how D-Wade handled LeBron when he came to Miami. I don't think LeBron's going to do that with Luka, and I think that's what the Lakers need at this point.
I think he did a little bit of that with Kyrie in Cleveland, man. Kyrie was one of the best scorers, was a ball-dominant point guard during that time.
But he was not the focal point of that team.
Yeah, but Mike, here's the difference. And Colin, I lived here. I was a part of the Big Three. I was a part of Experience It in an everyday, 5-day-a-week fashion on ESPN West Palm. I was literally there. One of the most amazing sporting events I've ever been a part of, non-game. John O'Terry, a member of our ESPN West Palm team, and I were in that arena with the not one, not two, not three. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life, right? And that first year, it did not work. It was, LeBron had to embrace being a villain, could not do that. They alternated D-Wade and LeBron. That didn't work. Yeah. And what Colin said is right, Mike, in that summer, Riley, Spoelstra, Wade, Haslam, the core of the behind the scenes of really the way the Heat were run, Andy Ellisberg, the GM, Mickey Harrison, governorship, they all realized, all right, we got to empower this guy. And unfortunately, Wade has to be the one to do the dirty work on that of all right, take it, do it. LeBron has never been in his life the second best player on the team. He doesn't know how to be the second best player on the team. And by the way, to be fair to what Mike said, to his credit, he's not definitely the second best player on the Lakers, even at 40 years old. He's going to need to be the second best player, which is why I thought this was a brilliant trade by the Lakers, because it's all right, if you don't want to be the second best player, we also don't have to re-sign you. If you want to opt out, we can just let you walk because we have our new best player in this. But no, I think it's funny, guys, that we've landed here on this conversation, because I literally said to our crew on Unsportsmanlike the other day, I said, listen, I'm not fully baked on this topic idea, but I think at some point we have to ask the question, over 20 years in the NBA, for the league, has LeBron done more harm or good for the league? Not for himself and not as a person, but for the league.
I still think good, but trust me, I completely understand the arguments. It's hard to fight it.
Appreciate you giving us the time, Evan. Thanks for carving out 20 minutes for us on a Thursday. We look forward to speaking again maybe in a couple months.
Thanks, Evan.